in my program, I learned a few things about higher education, and none of these are secrets. I mean, like, for anyone that's out there and is seeing what is happening to universities right now, you probably understand this intuitively, but a lot of people aren't willing to outright say it, and here it is. Number one, the value proposition of universities is painfully low and decreasing every day.
What's up, guys? We know this. There's a lot of inspiring people in this world, and that's what Inspiring Interviews is all about, interviewing people up to big things to share their message in service of you guys. I've got an awesome guest today, Nathan Elequin. Did I get that right?
Yep, you got it.
Okay, perfect. A fellow Googler. He's just an inspiring guy. He's taught me a lot. So, Nathan, thank you for joining me today.
Super happy to be here. Good to see you.
Yeah. So, what do you do at Google?
Sure. So I work with a program called the Cloud Technical Residency, and the most that I think I'm supposed to be able to share, since this is an incubated program, kind of a newer effort
Top secret.
Yeah, surely, from Google Cloud, is that we take new, extremely talented college graduates that have a background in software engineering, but they want to be able to do things that are more customer facing, so consulting or support services, things like that. And then we send them through a residency. We put them through a gauntlet. They actually train, and then they actually work through multiple jobs in cloud. And the goal is, how do we rapidly upskill a cohort of 25 new hires so that they can work every single one of the jobs that they touch on? Because once they're done with the program, they get placed in this sort of algorithm into the role that they'll be best fit. So that's kind of a piece of what we do. And my role for that program is specifically to both coordinate what happens and then to do a little bit of the design as to what the instruction looks like. So that pieces together a little bit of what I do currently at Google.
Totally. Well, I love your passion for the role, first of all. From
yeah.
the moment we first had lunch, which was a while back, I could just feel it. You got me excited about the program myself.
Yeah.
So what's your journey been like? How did you get to this position?
Sure. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool going to Google in Austin because the building overlooks the rest of the gorgeous downtown Austin area, because this is my stomping grounds. I grew up here in Austin, spent some time in the south part of Austin, went to college up at Baylor University just up the road. And then after I got my master's at Syracuse in instructional design.
Oh, no, wait.
Yeah.
I went to Georgetown.
Oh.
You always said juice cues, man. I don't know if we could do that. I'm kidding.
No. That's fine.
Hey.
It's so funny that never came up because I was not like... I was a much bigger Baylor fan, alma mater and all that, than Syracuse. But when I was at Syracuse was when we actually started really picking up football. We got the new coach that came in 2 years ago. And anyway, so yeah, it was a lot of fun, but I was ready to be back in Texas. So I got my master's in instructional design. I'd already had undergrad degrees in economics and business administration, education, that kind of stuff. So we kind of piecing all that together. Came back to Austin, proposed to my then girlfriend, got married the next January, so it was about a little over a year ago, and then settled here in Austin, took the job at Google in April of last year, and it's been my journey since then. I think that really like my story is I've been wanting to try to figure out a lot of ways to combine the things that I'm most passionate about, which, as we're going to talk about today, have a lot to do with the way that training and education, both in K-12 environments, also in corporate environments, such as new hiring practices, how that can be really vastly improved using probably some unknown or some lesser known fields of study that are out there but need to be fully tapped into. So we can maybe talk a little bit about that today. So
perfect. And you mentioned the term instructional design.
Yep.
So I'm sure the audience is wondering, what is that?
What does it mean?
And after describing that, can you share some practical tips for the audience to become better at, whether it's like training other people, teaching, sharing ideas?
Okay, cool. So if I were Vanna White, I would just go, I would have these tiles that pop up and like the letters would come across. But so ADDIE is what instructional design is, ADDIE. And the way that it looks is there are 5 steps that every instructional designer should be really proficient in. Analysis. What is the performance gap in an environment? So for 8-year-olds, can they do their multiplication tables? Or for new hires, are these people really good at establishing rapport with their audiences? So it's either way, you analyze what they're good at.
Yeah.
Second is design. What is the skeleton or the structure for how they should be taught the things that they don't know, the gaps in performance? Development is actually making the material, so making videos like this or writing content, textbooks, stuff like that. And then you've got your I and E. I is implementation. You got to execute. You got to get your teachers or get your trainers, get them out there doing it. But then the most important step, which might be a big focus in the corporate world is evaluation, that last step. The E represents assessment. How do we know that even though we say we're training for something, that it's actually helping? Because a lot of money's thrown at training practices does not support the actual learning of the people. And to be quite honest, there's kind of a conflict of interest for managers to assess it because it holds them accountable for what they're doing. It's really hard to say, no, let's actually see if this really helps. And you can do that through tests, examinations, you can do it through performance reviews, you can do it through, one-on-one manager discussions and sort of the mentorship process that we've got. But once you do all 5 of those steps, what you should have is a program that takes somebody from this level of skill and aptitude all the way to this level of skill and aptitude, whatever that thing happens to be. So that is what instructional designers should be able to help frame for anything.
Okay.
And for me, I get to do that with the Cloud Technical Residency because we know what they need to be able to do. They need to be able to do 3 jobs simultaneously. And so I get to take all those skills, according to their own managers, their org supervisors, roll them into our training program and see if we can really execute on that. But that is what instructional designers do. I think my professors at Syracuse would be proud of me right now. It's all here. It's in the noggin.
They totally would be. I mean, we could tell you're a natural teacher, and you've taught me a lot. Guys, Nathan helped me put together a presentation that got me recognition with leadership at Google. It even got me what we call a spot bonus. You helped me distill my value and make a difference for our community at Google within the sales realm.
Yeah.
So what's your advice to the audience to enable them to deliver really effective presentations? It could be, I think that's going to be helpful for the audience. Good. It could be to their customers, like for me, I'm in sales, or to their internal teams and stakeholders. Right. This is an important skill.
Yeah.
Give us your wisdom.
So I will say for those listening that when I met with Chris and was seeing kind of this presentation he was putting together, I think it's obvious that Chris has just an insurmountable amount of energy, just a passion that is unlike anything else. It's obvious, right? But when I saw his first presentation, I'm going to be honest, it kind of looked like 5 different people were presenting at once. Like there was so much going on, and so this is the cool part is if you have a passion or an idea, if you want people to be not only believe in it but understand it and be able to take that knowledge with them so that they can become, evangelists for whatever your cause is going to be, you need to be able to make it easier for them to remember those ideas and to connect them into the greater picture of what they're doing. That is 101 with teaching or training or persuasion. This can work for sales as well. So So how do you enable people to get excited about, believe in, follow your message, and learn something? I think that this could be useful for pretty much anyone, and I've got a bit of a flow for anyone who's listening out there. These are kind of this is the outline for what every single presentation, whether persuasive or instructional or both, usually all presentations are both, this is what you need to do. So if there was you know what? Actually, I'll drop a link. Maybe we'll have it in. You've got like a description for this podcast or YouTube.
We'll drop links.
Cool. Yeah. So there'll be kind of a template that all of you could kind of check out if you want to really like act on this. But so here's how we describe it. We're just gonna go through it. Again, I wish I had like a visual. Of course, we'll have a visual interface here.
Yeah.
So the first step whenever you're presenting, and so I guess we'll go meta. We'll go before the presentation and then the pieces within the presentation. Outside of the presentation, it is so important that you establish your primary goal for a presentation. And when I say goal, I want to really challenge people listening right now. It's really tempting to just say something that feels nice and say, yep, that's my goal. So a bad goal would be, I just hope people really believe in this or go for this or whatever. That's not good enough.
I hope they feel nice.
I hope they feel nice. Because what's going to happen is you won't ever know if you really delivered on that, because how do you know if they feel nice? What's really a good idea is to think about your call to action before you start the presentation. I would like for these people to do this, if not this, if not that, this. And having those in mind structures the rhetoric of your presentation because, well, for 2 things. 1, You'll be much more organized. You'll have those thoughts pushing towards that conclusion. But the second thing is you can tell them that at the beginning of the presentation. There's no reason why you need to keep that a secret. Tell them my goal for this presentation is for you to this or learn this or believe this. And that will actually tell them what they need to focus in on. We have short attention spans.
Yeah, we do.
Right? So
we're like chickens with our heads cut off half the time.
So that's the meta. You need to know what those calls to action are. Think of them in advance. We're gonna cycle back to that in a second. But here's the actual flow of the presentation. First is the hook. 30 seconds to a minute. You never want to spend too much time on this, but even though it feels gimmicky, find a way to connect with your audience. It is amazing how the average presenter, maybe in like the big tech space, people start thinking, well, I want to like feel really good about myself or whatever, and so they avoid that. They think it's too cliche. It helps to get people's attention. But after that, here's the real flow. The first is what's called the intro, which has 2 whys. Why me? Why am I the one talking about this? Why did I choose this topic? And then why you? Why should you care about this? Explicitly stating the importance of what you're saying. It is important that I am here talking about the way that people teach, because people out there that are listening might find it useful to apply within their own practices, not just for training purposes, but for sales purposes, marketing purposes, or even just in your daily lives when you're trying to get something done, if you're like a leader of a project or community effort. So there it is. There's the why.
Yes.
Then you go into these pieces. Background. Here's the information we have that is necessary for everyone to know. We know this. Here's some stats or some facts. Here's the context, whatever. Then you give that goal that I was talking about. My goal for this presentation is for you to this. After that, roadmap. You have to roadmap. Tell them in advance what you're going to say. First, we're going to talk about this, then this, then this. It's only about a sentence or two. Then you're done. And then you move into the roadmap. First point, let's talk about this. And you follow that. What's really important is that whatever the points you have selected that go under this little bullet list that we're creating here, your roadmap, needs to directly reinforce whatever your end goal is going to be. If it doesn't, you need to consider taking it out. Focus on what needs to happen, because honestly, you're spending a currency. You're spending people's focus and time and energy every time you say something. So your words need to matter. Make sure that it's tied to the final goal. So you go through your roadmap, you get to the end of that. So it's 1 point, 3 points, 18 points. You get to the end of that roadmap, you need to wrap it up. So you conclude by saying, hey, let's go back over really fast everything we touched on, and you just say your roadmap again. We talked about this, then this, then this, and at the end, this. And then you give your concluding statement. Therefore, I would really like it if all of you could call to action. What is it going to be? Typically, I like to come up with what's called the high third, mid third, low third. It's like, if people are super jazzed up about what I'm presenting, this is the most engaged you can get right now. And then, a little bit of pricing psychology. You're like, all right, cool. So for those of you who maybe don't feel that, try this instead. And then maybe you still have kind of that low ball, kind of the bottom of the barrel. And for those of you who maybe don't feel like doing any of those things, try this instead. And so you can provide those links in your presentation or give them a call to action afterwards. Right. So that's the flow. And then you, ideally, if you like to be poetic, and I don't know, maybe I'm a fan of this.
I'm poetic.
Yeah. Okay, so Chris is going to use this. We've decided. You tie it back to your original intro. So whatever your hook was at the beginning, find a way to connect back at the top with, I don't know, something like, and so as a result, I wish that was something that I had known back in the July of 2009 when personal anecdote or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's basically like the flow of a presentation, and whether you are trying to sell something, teach someone, onboard someone, or anything in between, following that flow maximizes the probability that your audience not only just likes you for respecting their time and being efficient in your words, but also they will want to work with you if you tell them what to focus on. You've done that, so it's easier for them to remember what you've taught. Yeah, so that is the flow. That is how you're supposed to teach in any formal presentation context and most informal contexts.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm like a kid in a candy shop. I love your passion. That was super insightful. I even just learned some new things just now.
Oh, okay, cool.
Now, when it comes to delivering effective presentations, you talked a lot about the flow.
Yep.
It was comprehensive. Is there any gravy you'd add? Anything around pathos, logos, ethos, or any finishing touches?
Oh, you're speaking my language,
and
right?
And then I want to move to some thought leadership on education.
No, I appreciate that. So
any gravy?
For those who don't know what Chris is mentioning, this pathos, logos, ego, the ethos, this is what some very niche circles is referred to as the rhetorical trivium, the three pieces that make any argument persuasive. So if you're in sales, this might be particularly important to think about. So here's some gravy. Yeah, these three, that's actually a great way to summarize it.
Yeah.
So let's start with this. Logos is the logic. Logos is supposed to be the argument itself, whether it makes valid sense. So if you're arguing about the strategic advantages of a particular product, or you are claiming why you deserve the candidacy for the position because of your whatever, like those are the pieces that come together for a logical, coherent statement. And hopefully it better make sense, and ideally you better be able to back it up. What's your proof?
Another example is like on this channel, I'm trying to encourage more people to adopt healthy habits. Meditation has changed my life. There's a logos aspect to that. Like there's based in science.
Right. Yes.
Like,
this is where you bring in any scientific data.
So, okay, cool.
Yeah. And then, so just going around the triangle, pathos is the second one. This is what we would refer to more as like the tearjerker or the heartstring puller. People think of it as manipulative or wrong, but it's actually not. Connecting with pieces of the human spirit can be one of the most effective ways to persuade them of something, and in some cases might be the most important way, depending on the topic, obviously. And so this is where you really connect with them on a human level. It can be important to remember the humanity of something, whether it's good or bad, instead of being strictly, computer calculating about it like logos would be. So logos, pathos, and then ethos has to do with your own. It's basically the credibility of the speaker, whoever is presenting. It would be, we'll put it this way. It's easier for me to claim ethos when it comes to instructional design because I got a master's degree in it. I spent 2 years of my life mastering that craft. So that's reasonable, but it would be maybe less of an ethos if I were to teach you how to play badminton because I suck at it and it would not go well. Nothing I say would make sense, to be honest. I'd be outed very quickly if there was a professional badminton player out there in the audience. So that is how ethos pulls together. But the ways the pieces underneath that are your experiences, your demonstrated skills, your capability to communicate and understand the concepts that are underneath the topic. Those are all ethos-based things. So there's gravy. If you are thinking about your audience and what the appropriate balance is for your presentation, you'll basically, in your head, and you don't even realize this, you're going to make a pie chart between those three. It has to be one of those three. How much are you going to give? It's more likely for a big corporate presentation of 300 people that you're going to stick more to logos and then play into the ethos with a tiny bit of pathos. But if you're talking to a friend for a very intimate personal issue that you're like trying to really help them better themselves, or maybe you have a personal disagreement you're trying to settle, you're going to rely a lot more on pathos because you know them personally. So being cognizant of that actually could be really useful when you're setting up a presentation. But yeah.
Nathan, thanks for that gravy, and you gave a lot of great examples ranging from a big presentation in business to personal communications.
Yeah, this should work for all of it, really.
All right, are you ready?
I'm
future of education.
Yeah.
Go.
Oh man, yes. Let me predict the entire future. It's all speculation, of course.
Mr. Thought Leader.
Yeah. So Chris and I have talked about this, but basically, my journey's a little interesting because one of my degrees at Baylor was in economics. I really strongly I have a passion for making sure that things are efficient, scalable, that they are effective, specifically for education. So it was then interesting for me to then say, oh man, I want to work with college students. Let me go and get a master's degree in higher education, right? That should be good for this field. I went to Syracuse. I went to a higher ed program that I thought was really going to teach me a lot of those skills. But what I quickly realized was that a lot of the pieces of higher education, in a traditional sense, 4-year brick and mortar colleges and universities, I guess I'm about to explain why, but there's a lot of reasons why they're on the way out. A lot of the future of higher education, post-high school, post-secondary education, is going to be different than what we see today. And I guess I'll go through what I think some of those things are. Is that cool?
Totally.
Awesome. Yeah. So in my program, I learned a few things about higher education, and none of these are secrets. I mean, for anyone that's out there and is seeing what is happening to universities right now, you probably understand this intuitively, but a lot of people aren't willing to outright say it, and here it is. Number one, the value proposition of universities is painfully low and decreasing every day. Tuition, if you go from 1970 to today, and I definitely need to double check these stats, I just don't have time right now, but the last I checked, tuition from 1970 to today has septupled, so that's 7 times, septupled even when accounting for inflation. So when you adjust for inflation, tuition rates are 7 times what they were in the 1970s.
Wow.
So people going to college today, they're taking out loans in the only type of personal loan that cannot be erased by bankruptcy. Did you know that? The only loan that you can't declare null if you go bankrupt, like as a personal bankruptcy, is student loans. They fall under a unique category.
I did not know that.
That's why people get crippled for life with debts. And maybe the worst part is a lot of those took degrees that aren't supporting them economically because they wanted to learn. They're studying, and I'm not making fun of anyone for doing this. I think it's fine to study what you're passionate about. But if you studied something like English or Shakespearean literature, or there's just a lot of fields where you're not likely to get a job that will pay off those debts in a reasonable amount of time. You still paid $120,000 for it. And that to me is frustrating. I both love education and got a degree in economics, and this makes no sense both ways. And so that's point one. It's a really low value proposition because combined with the fact that it's expensive, people, they're not getting jobs with their degrees like they used to because companies care less about degrees. It was about 3 years ago that Google, IBM, and Dell, or Microsoft, one of those two, all 3 of those companies said, we're not going to require a 4-year degree for all of these hundreds of positions.
Yeah.
They open up the gates. And people that can demonstrate skills in software engineering or consulting or tech or sales or whatever, why should they go to college?
Yeah, I had a friend, I think, that didn't graduate high school that works as a recruiter at
Right.
Google, and he's a brilliant guy.
Right, because there are other ways to prove that you have what it takes. There are certifications and online courses and 2-year programs or junior college programs. Forcing someone to go to an expensive university because it has prestige, I guess, is a terrible reason to cripple yourself for life, financially speaking.
Yeah.
So that's something that I obviously get riled up about. But the worst part is most colleges aren't even good at teaching. That should be the thing that if you're spending that much money, they should be good at teaching you skills. But the fact that a lot of students at undergrad don't even go to their classes, they don't believe that their classes offer them a lot of value. And at the end of their 4 years, if you were to survey them on what they believe that they learned, they would probably tell you, and this is a made up stat, I'm just saying this in advance, many of them would tell you that they don't really remember most of what they were taught in college. They just did the things they need to do to get the degree. You combine all that together, this system makes no sense.
I fall into that category.
It's okay. You can add to my stat.
Georgetown was one of the greatest experiences, but at the same time, I did what I needed to do.
Right, and most people do.
And I taught myself a lot on my own.
Right.
So maybe I wouldn't go to all my classes, but I would read the textbook.
Right.
And obviously, it served me having that name, the connections, going to Spain to study abroad. One of the greatest things I could have ever done. I love Georgetown so much, and I fall into the category you're talking about, to be honest.
And that is a bummer because while we have jobs that will quickly pay off any student loans, if we had any, a lot of people may not find that. And so let's just review what happened here. They paid way too much for a degree that maybe didn't even help them get a job, depending on what they're trying to do, and probably didn't teach them very well. Obviously, huge oversimplification. There are great programs at many universities, but generally speaking, the value proposition of universities is painfully low and decreasing every day because of 2 things. 1, what I already said, companies don't care as much about degrees. And 2, because companies are finding their own solutions. And this is maybe where I need to spend my focus on the optimistic side. This is something that I'm calling the Google University, and shout outs to Google or whatever, but I think that big tech companies, they have a vested interest and all of the assets, all of the capital that they can use to throw around at this to make their own training programs. Online, short-term, self-paced, certification programs. How many of those do you see on Coursera and QuickLab and other programs? These are services that say, hey, if you can prove yourself definitively by demonstrating the skills rather than claiming you have the skills in an interview and then doing a technical interview and then having a degree for it, just to get the certificate, we will seek you out and put you into these types of roles. I see a future where 18-year-olds will have a choice. You can go to a traditional university, they'll always be around, and you can spend however much money it costs, it'll probably be less in the future, ideally, and have a social experience. You'll develop your emotional and social intelligence.
That's what I did.
You'll meet people, right? And there's value in that.
So much.
Yeah. Or you can instead pay $0 or maybe $1,000, do an online program or a hybrid program, because a lot of these big tech companies are dropping satellite locations in big cities so that they can actually have meeting spaces for students. Take the courses in 3 weeks if you're fast enough, 2 years if you've got a job that you need to work while you're studying. get the certificate, be guaranteed a second round interview for a type of position that you want at a company you want to get paid at. That is an alluringly better proposition for most people who come from lower income situations. Why on earth would I spend the money to go to a college when that doesn't guarantee me anything? And somebody like Google is promising me this type of setup as long as I complete these certificates. And we're maybe 2 to 5 years away from seeing that fully fleshed out, but I already can see how big companies are saying, first, we don't require the 4-year degree. The next step, which some are already taking, is here are the certificate programs you can take right now as a 16-year-old to guarantee you internships and later on a chance at a job that will pull you out if you're from that type of socioeconomic spectrum. So that is what I see happening. I'm kind of shorthanding it as the Google University, but all big tech companies have a vested interest in creating these resources because it's cheaper for them to hire people who don't have degrees. Not a secret. If somebody's got $120,000 of debt, they're going to expect, a much higher average salary or hourly wage the second they get out of college because they need it. If you hire someone out of high school, you can pay them a lot less, and they might be equally skilled. As long as you're willing to look hard enough, it can be extremely economical for big companies to do that. So I expect to see Google, Amazon, definitely Microsoft, Apple as well, the big four plus more. I would expect to see that happening a lot more in the next 5 years. So, but at any rate, I would say that that is the future of higher education. I look forward to seeing how universities respond. I happen to have a few connections to Syracuse, so I kind of know that behind the scenes, universities they're not panicked, but they know they have to quickly change their model. So what they're saying is, let's flip it around. Can we create more hybrid models so that people don't have to move to campus and study? What about pairing with some other technical certificates? I know that a university in Southeast Asia has already partnered with Google to start offering our online Coursera modules as part of an in-university course sponsored by a professor, which is really fascinating, and I hope that goes well for them. So that will be something that I'm also going to be looking forward to in the future, seeing where that all pans out. But that is what I think will happen to the future of higher education next 10 years. Who knows after that?
Yeah. What a great, insightful perspective. And I do have to say to the audience, obviously, these are our opinions. They're not representative of Google 100%.
That's true.
Important to call that out, and really good insights and points.
Yeah.
And I think it's about time to wrap this up. This has been power-packed, incredibly valuable. And the energy, this has been fun, man. Thank you. So what are your thoughts on the actual, I know value of education, it looks like it could be diminishing. But what is the true value right now as it stands? I'm thinking the social aspect. Is it actually about learning how to think independently?
You're talking about universities, higher education?
Could we finish up on that?
Yeah. So here's the value of higher education. A lot of people that go to traditional universities, it is likely that they have not had a formal experience driving the decisions that will shape who they are as adults. And so college gives you a pretty streamlined and enclosed space to do that. Not only do you get to pick your major, it allows you to explore different ideas. Theoretically, it allows you to bump into people of different backgrounds and experiences, and through that grow as a human, learn more about the human race and condition and worldviews and theologies or whatever. And when you kind of roll that all together, ideally what it's going to do for people is give them a chance to more properly understand their own identity. Identity formation is the most valuable thing that colleges provide right now.
Yes.
And as you're maturing in your social and emotional stances, that would be the best place to do it. And there are some counter arguments to that, but generally speaking, I still believe in that period of time for usually traditionally aged college goers, 18 to 22, for them to be able to do all of those things. So that would be valuable to them.
Nathan, this was awesome.
Good.
Thank you for joining me, my brother.
Dude, it's been fun.
So to finally wrap up, where can people find you?
Sure. Yeah, I love talking about these things, but I don't do what Chris does. I don't have a formal place to voice these opinions. However, no exclusions of any sort. If anyone is interested in just talking to me more about these ideas, I've got a simple website you can find me at, nathanelequin.com, first name, last name.com. So NATHANELEQUIN.com. And so my email will be there. But for any Googlers, definitely, you can probably find me just through my last name. That is my LDAP, of course. And then send me a chat. Maybe we can get coffee or hang out. So
perfect. Guys, thanks for coming on the journey with us. We're here to serve you with positive ideas and encouragement with every single video. Love you guys. Peace. Hey guys, thanks for coming on the journey. If you liked my content, if you liked the video, show some love and smash that subscribe. It's a small click for you that makes a big difference for me. And if you want to check out some more content and get some more doses of positivity, check out some of my other videos and tell me what you think in the comments. Love y'all. Peace.